forms of which our system is one, as well as with the general and vaster etheric body of the universe in which we are located. I employ the word located here with deliberation and because of the inferences to which it leads. This vaster field, as well as the smaller and more localized fields, provides the medium of transmission for all the energies which play upon and through our solar system, our planetary spheres and all forms of life upon those spheres. It forms one unbroken field of activity in constant ceaseless motion and eternal medium for the exchange and transmission of energies. In connection with this, and in order more correctly to understand, it will be useful to study individual man. In this way we can arrive at a faint comprehension of the basic and underlying truth. Students should never forget the law of analogy as an interpretive agency. Esotericism teaches, and modern science is rapidly arriving at the same conclusion, that underlying the physical body and its comprehensive and intricate system of nerves is a vital or etheric body which is the counterpart and the true form of the outer and tangible phenomenal aspect. It is likewise the medium for the transmission of force to all parts of the human frame, and the agent of the indwelling life and consciousness. It determines and conditions the physical body, for it is itself the repository and the transmitter of energy from the various subjective aspects of man, and also from the environment in which man, both inner and outer man, finds himself. Two other points should here be added. First, the individual etheric body is not an isolated and separated human vehicle but is, in a peculiar sense, an integral part of the etheric body of that entity which we have called the human family. This kingdom in nature, through its etheric body, is an integral part of the planetary etheric body. The planetary etheric body is not separated off from the etheric bodies of other planets, but all of them in their totality. Along with the etheric body of the Sun constitute the etheric body of the solar system. This is related to the etheric bodies of the 6 solar systems which, with ours, form a cosmic unity, and into these pour energies and forces from certain great constellations. The field of space is etheric in nature, and its vital body is composed of the totality of etheric bodies of all constellations, solar systems and planets which are found therein. Throughout this cosmic golden web there is a constant circulation of energies and forces, and this constitutes the scientific basis of the astrological theories. Just as the forces of the planet and of the inner spiritual man, to mention only one factor among many, pour through the etheric body of the individual man upon the physical plane, and condition his outer expression, activities, and qualities, so do the varying forces of the universe pour through every part of the etheric body of that entity we call space and condition and determine the outer expression, the activities and qualities of every form found within the cosmic periphery. The second point I would make is that within the human etheric body there are to be found 7 major force centers which are in the nature of distributing agencies and electrical batteries, providing dynamic force and qualitative energy to the man. They produce definite effects upon his outer physical manifestation. Through their constant activity his quality appears, his ray tendencies begin to emerge, and his point in evolution is clearly indicated. This control of form through a septenate of energies, as it is defined in the old commentary, is an unalterable rule in the inner government of our universe and of our particular solar system, as well as in the case of individual man. There are, for instance, in our solar system, 7 sacred planets which correspond to the 7 individual force centers in man, the 7 solar systems, of which our solar system is one, and in their turn the 7 energy centers of the one to whom I have referred in my other books as the one about whom naught can be said. Much has been given in the occult books of which the average astrologer remains profoundly unaware. it is essential that he learns to think in larger wholes and to be more deeply concerned with the emanating sources and with the eternal persistent causes than with the effects of these sources upon that ephemeral creation, a human being and his temporary existence upon a most unimportant planet. As he seeks to do this, he will discover for himself the signs of the essential divinity of man, a divinity which is to be found in the infinite grasp of man's consciousness when illumined by the light of the soul, and in his power to project his thought into the consciousness of those manifold lives whose energetic movements he must perforce share, because his small modicum of energy is an integral part of theirs. There is one aspect of energy for which the modern astrologer makes very little allowance, and yet it is of paramount importance. This is the energy which emanates from, or radiates from the earth itself. Living as all human beings do upon the surface of the earth and being, therefore, projected into the etheric body of the planet, for the reason that man stands erect, man's body is at all times bathed in the emanations and the radiations of our earth and in the integral quality of our planetary logos as he sends forth and transmits energy within his planetary environment. Astrologers have always emphasized the incoming influences and energies as they beat upon and play through our little planet, but they have omitted to take into adequate consideration the emanating qualities and forces which are the contribution of our Earth's etheric body to the larger whole. This we will consider later, but I felt the necessity of calling your attention to it at this time. Another point which should here be noted is that the influence of the moon is purely symbolic in nature and in effect, and is simply the result of ancient thought and teaching, descended to us from Lemurian times, and is not based upon any true radiation or influence. In those far-off times, antedating even Lemuria and constituting in Lemurian days simply an ancient tradition, the moon appeared to be a living vital entity. But I would have you bear definitely in mind that today the moon is nothing more than a dead form. It has no emanation and no radiation of any kind and, therefore, has no effect of any kind. The moon, from the angle of the esoteric knower, is simply an obstruction in space, an undesirable form which must someday disappear. In esoteric astrology, the effect of the moon is noted as a thought effect, and as the result of a powerful and most ancient thought form. Nevertheless, the moon has no quality of her own and can transmit nothing to the earth. Let me reiterate. The moon is a dead form. It has no emanation at all. That is why the moon is spoken of in the ancient teaching as veiling neither Vulcan or Uranus. This hint or inference has always been here, and astrologers would do well to experiment with the suggestion I have made and the moon, and, instead of working with the moon, let them work with Vulcan when dealing with the undeveloped or average man and with Uranus when considering the highly developed man. They would find some interesting and convincing results eventuate. Students would also do well to remember that the 12 constellations, which constitute our particular zodiac, are themselves the recipients of many streams of energy, coming to them from many sources. These blend and fuse with the energy of any particular constellation and transmuted and, occultly refined, eventually find their way into our solar system. I would like to call attention, at this point, to some comments I made in a treatise on cosmic fire which are apposite and helpful. I am somewhat paraphrasing. Astrology is concerned with the effect produced in the substance of the sheaths by the influences, vibrations, etc., of the various planets. These are, esoterically, the influences of the solar centers. The forces, emanating from the solar centers, play upon the planetary centers. This is hidden in the karma of the heavenly man. When true esoteric astrology comes into being, more and this will be given. Astrological students are today only learning the ABC of this stupendous subject, and are occupied with the exoteric fringes of that great veil, which has been thrown wisely over planetary lore. A treatise on cosmic fire, p. 1051. The following is a list incomplete but adequate for our purposes of the major influences which find their way from far distant sources into our planetary life and produce definite effects upon individual man and humanity as a whole. 1. The constellation of the Great Bear. I2. The Seven Sisters of the Pleiades. 3. Sirius, the Dog Star. 1. The seven solar systems of which ours is one. II. The seven sacred planets of which ours is not one. 3. The five non-sacred planets or hidden planets. 1. The seven planetary centers. II. The seven centers of force in the human etheric body. IV1. The 12 zodiacal constellations. We thus have a ninefold energy impact. This is a major chart, but it should be remembered that there are other impacts of relative insignificance. To these would be added other streams of energy which definitely play upon and affect our planetary life, such as those coming from that great star, Betelgeuse, or from Antares and other stupendous suns and solar systems which are related to the constellations of the zodiac and whose force reaches us through these constellations and not directly. Besides these, it should be remembered that technically we should also add the radiatory influence, which comes direct to us from the planet, the Earth, upon which we live. Then, and only then, can you have a fairly complete analysis and picture of the energies to which the etheric body of man, conditioning the physical body which is preeminently automatic and negative in its reactions, must and does ever respond. An understanding of that response, and the conscious intelligent control of individual reactions are supremely necessary to man but only become possible at a fairly advanced stage of development and as he nears the path, technically understood. Man learns first of all to control his reactions to the planets, as they rule and direct his personality affairs from their different stations in the 12 houses of his horoscope. There are two ways in which this is done. First, by having the horoscope duly cast and then taking steps to determine what should be done to negate the planetary influences where it is deemed desirable to control the personality reactions. This has to be done by the applied power of thought. This necessitates complete confidence in the understanding and interpretation of the astrologer, and the recognition of the exact moment of birth. One wonders if these conditions of the exact moment, and the completely wise astrologer are ever to be found, as yet. Second, by consciously assuming the position of the spiritual observer, and by cultivating the power to respond to the soul. Then, from the angle of that soul, the man must learn to control circumstance, and the attendant reactions of the personality. The following attitudes, and positions taken by the esoteric astrologer should also be noted. 1. That the planetary influences indicate the trend of the outer life circumstances. When correctly interpreted for the average man and for the involved man, they can and do indicate the personality destiny, and fate. They do condition and completely control the man, who has no conscious soul experience. The moment that a man becomes aware of his own soul, and is endeavoring to control his own path in life, the influence of the planets, per se, definitely weakens and steadily becomes less and less. His personality chart appears